What's up, everybody? How y'all doing out there? This is Shabazz with the proper pod, with the proper perspective. Trying to get it started out here. Okay, I think we got the microphone set up properly. I'm gonna try to get myself positioned a little bit better. Hoping that the microphone is working. I didn't do a mic check, so I might be a little bit off. See if I can sign on and get some feedback. All right.
All right.
I, I now know I am definitely live. What we talking about tonight? What we here to talk about tonight? We here to talk about Pan-Africanism. Yeah, I know that's like the dirty word in these YouTube streets because everybody trying to forsake that school of thought, and everybody trying to jump on this FBA individual exclusivity hate campaign. I ain't about it. I ain't with it. Not like talking about it. I'm gonna stay in my Pan-African lane. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up, let me see if I can pull up my files so I can find everything while I lay my groundwork and launch my plane, take off with this plane. I ain't landing it no time soon. But I did want to talk about this thing. There is this I heard a couple of people. I've heard the idea, I've heard the problem before, I've heard the not problem, I've heard this argument before. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit. As I usually say, as I said last time, I am a Pan-Africanist. I do believe in Pan-Africanism. So I think it's very important. I think it's crucial, as a matter of fact. I think without Pan-Africanism, we are not going to go anywhere as a people in this country. But this argument, I've heard these guys say, they try to push this narrative. They want to say that Pan-Africanism is dead. And if you look across the continent, for the most part, you can't prove that. Now, you might be able to say it's dead in this country. And I would say it's only dead in this country if you decide to kill it. It may be dead in your circles, but it ain't dead in mine. Historically speaking, it was the spirit of Pan-Africanism that had Black Americans standing up for South Africa and helping them get bringing into apartheid. And that's, for me, that's a good example of Pan-Africanism. But the argument that was made to me was that we don't need to be Pan-Africanists because it's a one-way street. The continent gets benefits and we don't. Now I'm like, okay, if you're closed-minded, you might make that argument and feel real good about it. But I would ask you, I'm like, okay, so here's one of the questions. But what's the benefit that we're supposed to get out of it? And so, like, when people say they are in favor of, or no, I'm sorry, when people say they are against this idea of Pan-Africanism, they want to say this stuff about tangible benefits. And I'm like, okay, who do you want these tangible benefits from? Like, the idea of Pan-Africanism is really more so about solidarity. Nobody, no Pan-Africanist is asking one group of Africans to give up their struggle in favor of the other. When we as a group of people here in this country, when we were standing up, when we were applying political pressure, when we were applying social pressure to corporations and to Uncle Sam to get them to stand against apartheid. While we were doing that, we didn't set aside our own struggle for civil rights. We didn't spend 5 to 10 years or even longer saying we're not going to fight for ourselves while we fight for the freedom of South Africa. So this idea that, if you fight for, if you stand up for, if you recognize common enemies, and you do what you can to hold that enemy accountable, not only for your own pains but for other people's pains, that you're putting yourself to the side, that's ridiculous. Like, as a group, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. When we go, if there is a rally, and we go, if there is a rally because people are going to march and protest Israel because they want Israel to stop killing Palestinians. If you're black and you attend that rally, that doesn't mean you're no longer fighting for your own struggle. So this idea that you can only be in favor of one, it's very elementary. It's very elementary, simple-minded. And that's being optimistic about it. Because again, it's either simple-minded, it's either narrow-minded, or it's something more planned. It's something more strategic. It's something more evil. It reeks of agentism. So again, this idea, what I would say is, if you want, first of all, let me say this. If you think that, let's clear up some of the misconceptions, because people have said, Africans ain't never stood up for us. I'm like, okay, first off, how would you know? Like, if you're a person, if you make this kind of comment, clearly you don't know. So if you have not been tuned in to non-American news media sources, of course you might think that. You weren't there, you didn't read the newspaper, you didn't read the, I don't want to say YouTube, but you didn't read any of the, or you didn't watch any of the video feeds that were coming out of the United Nations when African presidents were standing up and speaking about our plight, not their own. When they were speaking about Uncle Sam putting his foot on our neck, literally and symbolically. So of course you'll say, well, they ain't never stood up for us. You don't know. All you do is watch CNN. All you do is watch Fox News or even MSNBC. None of them tell you that there are African statesmen and leaders and presidents and prime ministers that have given speeches at the United Nations condemning what America does to Black people. But you wouldn't know this. So you spew forth this ignorance about them not caring about you. There's only but so much they can do. They live in and they manage their own sovereign nation, and we live in and do not manage our own sovereign nation. We live in this country. We don't manage this country's government. In every movement in our history where someone stood forward and said we need to separate and create our own nation, most of us have disagreed. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, no, you don't want to separate, and then be mad at other countries who don't come to your rescue or to your assistance. When Cuba had the opportunity to decide if they wanted to huddle up to America or stand on its own, they knew what the pros and cons of that is. So just like there's been many moments where we had the opportunity to decide if we want to cuddle up to Uncle Sam or stand alone. We've always chosen to cuddle up to Uncle Sam. So fine, we remain consolidated in this country. But when you remain consolidated in this country, then you can't necessarily cry that other countries aren't helping you. They don't have a right to. They legally cannot. They can't come over here with their soldiers and bum rush the police for breaking international law. Even with the example when what is his name? Ruto. And I'm forgetting the name of the African country. Shame on me. But even when he sent his soldiers into Haiti, he could only do it legally because whatever was left of the Haitian government and the United Nations gave him that authority. So you would have to have the invite from Uncle Sam, and you would have to have it stamped by the United Nations for an African nation to come in here and help us with police brutality and systemic racism. They can't do that. They can't do it without the invite. And you think Uncle Sam is going to invite them? So you can't hold them accountable for something that is against the law. You know, if you wanted their help, you should have, what we should have done was like Cuba. We should have said, no, we're going to stand on our own. We are going to set up our own. Yes, we tried to. Yes, we wanted to with the 40 acres and a mule thing. But once again, the president that came in after that announcement was made vetoed all of that legislation, and we didn't fight for it again. We've been fighting for 40 acres and a mule, but we haven't been fighting for independence and separation. And anybody that brings that up now are just, they're told, look, number one, it's almost illegal to even talk about it. So, as a disclaimer, I am not advocating secession from the nation. It's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, if you don't stand as your own nation, and don't hit me with none of this Moorish science garbage about you can set up your own. No, you can't. You can run those little silly games all you want to, but when they come for you, you're gonna still end up in jail. And you'll be in jail as an American who broke the laws of America. That's not a nation. You're not a nation because you do some weird, funny tricks on a piece of paper. You are a nation when you have land and a government, and recognized by other governments who regulate a body of land. So you're not even a nation just because you have land. Hell, the Native Americans have land. Technically, they have their own government because it's recognized by Uncle Sam. But again, therein lies the rub. You have to be recognized by other sovereign nations. Even when this country got started, it still wasn't a nation until other countries said, you know something, we'll put it on paper that we recognize you guys as a nation. Otherwise, you're just a colony of England. So I don't want to hear anything about the Moorish science, and the Moors said that you can do this on paper and you can walk into a court of law, and if you're black, you just dead anyhow. When all of that bogus mess. But again, let me get back to this whole, you cannot, you say you're going to exist as citizens of Uncle Sam. So that's who we are. We are citizens under the governing body of Uncle Sam. 13% of the population. So you can't say, oh, well, the Africans never helped us. They don't have legal rights to do it. Now, aside from that, there's plenty of examples. Again, there are plenty of examples all throughout our history where African presidents, where African chiefs have either made statements to express their solidarity and their concern, which is all they can do. Some of them have ventured over here to speak with us. So even in those cases, that's all they can do is come over and speak with us. They are developing countries. They don't have nuclear power, so they can't threaten Uncle Sam the way Russia can. Hint, hint. But there have been numerous examples of chiefs coming over. And the chief himself has come over and apologized and expressed his sentiments on the same type of feelings that we might have about what happened 400 some odd years ago. So in that regard, that's Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is simply recognizing that we have the same common heritage. We have very similar cultures amidst differences. We have the same enemy who may use different tactics and strategies, but we're all in the same battle. But we all must take up the fight in whichever ways makes sense for our individual fights. Ghana can't fight Nigeria's struggles. Nigeria can't fight Senegal's battles. But Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal can work together in whichever ways they see fit that benefit their groups. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be working together amongst ourselves in whichever way we see fit that helps us, while recognizing that we fight in the same struggle as the rest of our brothers and sisters, not only in Africa. We are a global people. So we got people that are fighting the same struggle in South America, in Central America, fighting the same struggle in Papua New Guinea, in Australia. Nobody is asking us to stand down on our fight until they get free. The whole notion of FBA and ADOS is just based on hate. So again, it had this guy say, ain't no Africans ever cared about us. I just sort of like dispelled that. But I'll give you other examples. There was a Black bank, Black American owned bank. I think it was two, one in Chicago and one in New York. And it was about to go under. We're going to file bankruptcy. It was a bank that was instrumental, that was crucial to the Black community as a whole, but specifically in those cities. They were the only source of loaning money to Black people, and that bank was going under. And there were some investors from the continent that said, hey, the bank needs help. We need to invest in something. Let's break bread. That's Pan-Africanism. That's Pan-Africanism. When you see an opportunity where you can help your brother, some people want to say we distant cousins, either way, your family, you help them, especially when it's a win-win on both sides. That's economic Pan-Africanism. The Black bank, the Black owned, the Black American owned, the FBA ADOS owned bank didn't ask the continental African investors to give up their struggle on the continent. They say, hey, here's the money, just go, here's what's going on, here's the transactions, here's what we need. What's the rate of return? Boom, they broke bread, they worked it out, the bank was saved. That's just one example. You know, if you are a Pan-Africanist, you believe that there are ways for both sides of for both sides, Africans in the West and Africans in the East, to come together and find solutions. So I have this example I'm trying to find. You know, all these people they want to say it's a one-way street. We don't get no benefits. So I'll give you another example of an economic avenue where the spirit of Pan-Africanism is what is at play. You have a Nigerian entrepreneur. Now I may mess up his name because my, I've been the English is what's heavy on my tongue. Iyanolua, Iyanolua, Iyanolua Aboyeji, Iyanolua Aboyeji, a Nigerian entrepreneur, created opportunities for diasporic Africans to invest in businesses all across Africa. He created a platform known as Flutterwave, which is a payments technology company. And it has attracted investments from African American investors and tech entrepreneurs. So again, Pan-Africanism is not about giving up the struggle. Pan-Africanism is about us working together and understanding that there's things that we have, there's things that they have, and we can network and work together so that we both benefit. Now, there's plenty of African Americans that want to invest. And when you get into investment games, especially in America, when you get into investment games, just soon as you walk through the front door, like the numbers alone might end up telling you, showing you, making you feel like, I'll never be able to do this. Now, there's been a tech revolution, you know, where apps like Robinhood and a few others have begun to knock those doors down and make investing more user friendly for the everyday common Joe or average Joe, common man. And that's a good thing. But again, the power in that is when you couple that with the idea that there are continental Africans working on ways where we can connect and invest. Again, it's investment. It's not like you're just throwing the money to somebody. You're investing into businesses on the continent. And with all investment comes, yes, there comes risk, but there comes return on investment. So that's another example. Then you got the African American Cultural Alliance, which set up the African American Investment Fund, and they work directly to connect Black Americans with investment opportunities in African tech, agriculture, and infrastructure. So again, yeah, these are examples of continental Africans putting forth economic avenues, laying forth economic avenues where Black Americans can invest in the continent. Now you might say, well, that's still one way. First off, it's not one way because when you invest in, you get money back. So it's a two-way street. But even if you push that to the side and still tell me I'm wrong, these are what continental Africans decided to take it upon themselves to do. So that means Black Americans have to take it upon ourselves to do. So if you don't like it, if you don't like the investment going out and you want it to come in, then set up an app. The same way Mr. Aboyeji set up an app, you go out and set up an app. Lord knows, yes, we need financing, we need capital. We especially need capital because all we ever try to do is set up things in accordance with the way white capitalism is set up in this country, as opposed to trying to figure out how can we use African culture, how can we use our natural African perspective, Afrocentric perspective, even though we may have forgotten it, it's still there, to invest, to build capital, to amass wealth. But rather than trying to study it and learn, you want to jump online and start pointing fingers. You know, you can set up a susu. If you don't know what it is, look it up. You know, we have this shared interest, whether you know it or not. There are means of promoting cross-border investments. It doesn't have to just be continent investment. It can be investment into Black American businesses. Lord knows we ain't got enough. But again, the onus is on us to create the platforms. If we can create a platform where we hate everybody, we can create a platform where we build with everybody. It's on what we want to do. But it's so much easier to point fingers and throw out expletives and castigate with nasty words and ugly phrases. Then they say, yo, let's holler, let's talk, let's build, let's break bread. So again, like, okay, now, and this is the other thing. For everybody that wants to say, if you still stuck on this whole, they never helped us, they don't want to help us. Again, let's go back to this whole look. First off, like I said, you know, if they've already there's too many examples of them, you know, being, you know, they go to the United Nations and they talk about the whole world needs to help out Black Americans, but because you didn't see it on CNN, you don't know. But aside from that, let's put that to the side. How are you going to help Black Americans? How is any African country going to help Black Americans? When Black Americans, like, who they going to help? We don't have a governing body. We got a don't want to curse. We have a ton of organizations. We have a ton of leadership organizations. And none of them talk to each other. None of them coordinate. None of them work together. So even if, mind you, they can't, but even if a government wanted to assist Black America, how they going to do it? Like, again, now here's another example. You had Gaddafi. And Gaddafi was going to help Black people, Black Americans. But how was he going to do it? He was going to do it in a way that most Black Americans was going to be mad at anyhow. He was going to give money. He was loaning money to the Nation of Islam under the guidance and leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So he was going to loan this organization money so that they could build infrastructure, so they could buy land, buy property, buy houses, build infrastructure. And clearly that would have been something that was going to help Black people, because you're not going to get a whole bunch of white people running up trying to buy anything from a Farrakhan-oriented grocery store or a Nation of Islam-oriented coffee shop. And Uncle Sam blocked it. But that's a talk for another day. My point is, you had an African leader, you had an African president who was willing to help in the only way that he could, because he couldn't send his soldiers over. He couldn't send fighters over to protect us from the police or to protect us from the white nationalists or the white supremacists. So the only help that can be done is economic help. You have so I've already talked about the coders that have set up apps that help. You have an African president that was going to lend money to an organization. Now, and I'll say this, even if he would have lent the money, if Uncle Sam wouldn't have stepped in to block it, if he would have lent him the money, most of y'all still wouldn't support, because you don't support now. The Nation of Islam right now has, not only do they have infrastructure, they have stores, they have newspapers, they have food, and most of us don't support that. So even if the money would have got there, you still wouldn't support it. So outside of that particular leader networking and liaisoning with that particular leader to try and get some help, what else is there? So again, you have another example of an African leader reaching out to help. And so I say, even if the money would have transferred, how many churches would have worked with Farrakhan? And I say all that to say, we have to get our stuff together. We have all these organizations, we have all these leaders, all these influencers. And I'm not taking shots at nobody, at least not tonight. But what I'm saying is, we have all these separate leaders, influencers, individuals, and organizations, and they are all working in their own lanes, rightfully so. But there is no umbrella organization. Like, one of the purposes of a government, which we don't have and can't have, is to serve as the umbrella under which everything else falls. We don't have our own land. We don't have our own territory. We don't have our own government. So that's out. We have no umbrella organization. Like, if you look at Greek society, Black Greeks, I don't care if you don't like them. I pretty much don't like them myself. But one thing I respect is, amongst all of those different Greek fraternities and sororities, they have a Pan-Hellenic Council. So they have an umbrella organization. And this is the optimistic view of it. They have an umbrella organization that coordinates certain things amongst them. We have no umbrella organization that would coordinate the Nation of Islam, whatever, the Christian churches, or I should say the Baptist churches. Who gets all of the different Baptist churches to sit alongside all of the different Catholic churches that are Black, all of the different, I don't know all the names of the different orientations of Catholicism and the Protestants, but who gets all of them together to say this is what we're going to work on? Nobody. Whatever the Nation of Islam works on, it works on its own. Whatever the Protestant, whatever the Baptists work on, they work on it on their own. Whatever the Catholics work on, they work on their own. Whatever the Black Jews work on, they work on it on their own. We have no governing body. We have no umbrella organization. So even if there are either individuals or whole nation states that said, we want to help build something, how they gonna do it? We have to come together and say, once and for all, There is an umbrella organization. When Garvey was alive, the Universal Negro Improvement Association was at least trying to be that. But then all the infighting, it couldn't be that. So it had to work on its own objectives in its own lane. So until we can get some kind of umbrella, overriding, overarching organization that will bring all of our leaders together and coordinate efforts. That's the only reason MLK was successful. He wasn't successful because he was charming. He wasn't successful because he was morally in the right. It wasn't a moral battle. A lot of people may think it was a moral battle, but it was not a moral fight. It was a legal fight. And the only reason he was successful is because there were, I don't know, I want to say like something like 13, but I don't have the absolute exact number. I did do a little research. I did look some stuff up. And so MLK himself and A. Philip Randolph worked together to ensure every organization they could think of would come out and work together. And so I think what he called MLK, let me see, MLK founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. So that's an umbrella organization. What he was trying to do was bring together every Christian organization in the South. So whatever each church was working on, now we want y'all to come sit in this meeting. Send a representative. We ain't doing that today. So almost all of the marches, the sit-ins, the rallies that he was presenting, showing up at, speaking on, everything was coordinated. So again, so it was the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. It was the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. It was the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. It was the Congress of Racial Equality. It was the Urban League. It was the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. It was Highlander Folk School. A multitude of Black churches and religious institutions, a multitude of women's political councils, a plethora of local grassroots organizations, especially in Birmingham and Selma and Montgomery. So all of these people were pulled together under one umbrella. And so they all worked together to pick dates for the events that they were going to have. They all worked together to submit, what the proposal, so to speak, for the civil rights legislation. So anybody from the outside, if there was somebody that wanted to help at that particular point in time, it would be easy for them to say, okay, well, let's go to the umbrella company, the umbrella organization, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And here's how we want to help. We don't have that today. We don't have that at all. That's what we need. That's one of the things we need. I'm not trying to say, yo, if we had that together, everything would work perfectly. No, that's one of the things we need. But what I submit to you is, without something like that, we're all spinning our wheels. We're like a hamster on that wheel. We're reinventing the wheel. Every time we have a boycott, it's a brand new set of people calling for the boycott. And then they don't want to work with whoever called the last boycott. They started a boycott in December. Is it still going on? Or have we forgotten about it? And why have we forgotten about it? Well, the people that started it, they made the initial announcements on TikTok. Now TikTok about to go. What is it? Today's the 16th. TikTok getting banned on the 19th or the 20th, ain't it? So people are leaving Tip Top, or not leaving, but abandoning it. So what's up with the boycott? I heard other people making announcements. We need to start a boycott. I'm like, start a boycott? One was started a month ago. What, are we not doing it no more? So again, until we come together, there used to be this conference that happened once a year. I think Tavis Smiley was holding it at a certain point in time, and maybe before him, Tony Brown may have done something like that. Don't quote me on that one. I ain't too sure. But at least there was this State of the Black Union. At least at that particular time when they had that, you had representatives from a myriad of organizations. And while that was good because it allowed all of these different leaders to come to the table and come to the stage, they still didn't necessarily work together. They just all showed up to talk together. But that was a start, and then they stopped that. No, we stopped that. It ended. We need to get back to that. Or we can just all continue cruising in our own little lanes and having hate campaigns about the next man. And 5 years from now, if Trump leaves office, we're going to be sitting in the same exact place. And that's another thing. Everybody, when it was time to vote, everybody jumped up and had an opinion about who to vote for and whether or not you should vote. Where y'all at now? Where all this smoke for standing up and representing? Or was it just about the algorithm? No work being done. We are so fragmented today. Even if everybody wanted to help us, they wouldn't know where to start. We had Black Lives Matter, and it looked like it was going to be something that was going to at least be effective or positive for the moment. And we ourselves tore that down. Don't trust it because George Soros gave the money. Who you care gave the money? You either had the money to bail out the grassroots activists when the police put the cuffs on them, or you didn't. Trump didn't donate any money. Steve Bannon didn't donate any money. We wanted to tear that down. Oh, they in favor of gay rights. We don't want them helping. Okay, so let them go to the side. Who organized the next rally? Who organized the next march? Who organized the next get out the vote campaign? Nobody. But as long as there was no organization that said pro gay rights, we good. That's us. That's us hustling backwards. That's not the white supremacists. That's not the continent of Africa. That's not Europe. That's us. Crabs in a barrel, working against our own best interests. You don't like that George Soros was the biggest donor? Find another one. Go find a donor. But keep your mouth shut until you find a donor. Don't castigate George Soros until you got somebody that got deep pockets like him and is willing to give it up. Don't castigate Black Lives Matter because they were started by 3 lesbians. Who cares? They was hitting the streets to try and represent for killed, slain, murdered Black babies. But because you don't like what they do in a bedroom, you want to stand against them. If you're going to stand against them, then where's your rally? Where's your website? Where's your political action committee? How are you organizing people to donate to a particular party? You don't have to be pro-Democrat. You don't have to be pro-Republican. Start your own party, but start it now. Don't wait until November of the voting year to say we need our own party. Start that party up now. Go register in your state and get other people to register in their state, or go join one of the third parties, the alternative parties, and help get it off the ground. Or you're gonna wait for 4 years and then say we need our own party. What you doing right now to build that party? What you doing right now to help erect an umbrella leadership organization that will pull all of our groups together so we can finally get on one page? The Caribbean nations have already done it. They got CARICOM. They've all said, Jamaica said, we feel like we are owed reparations. Black Americans have said, we feel like we are owed reparations. But Black Americans haven't created an organization. We got in Cobra, and we got somebody else online saying, screw in Cobra. Okay, you don't like in Cobra? What's your organization? Not what's your website, not what's your rally. What's your organization that is putting forth legislation? The Jamaicans got with the Trinidadians, got with the Bahamians, got with Barbados. They all set up an organization called CARICOM. And they have representatives from each island nation working together on one goal: get reparations from England. What are we doing over here? Tariq is saying don't listen to Umar. Umar is saying don't listen to Tariq. Yvette Carnell, or whatever her name is saying don't listen to neither one of them. Nobody's saying let's create an organization where we can set forth the proper legislation to get it. No, all y'all doing is fighting, pointing fingers, and calling other people, other Black people, a problem. That's why in 4 years, if Donald Trump leaves office, you still ain't gonna have nothing. You're not gonna have reparations, and you're not gonna have any movement on legislation to even study it, because you ain't working on it. You're just crying like little babies online. But let me calm down. Like I said, so it almost feel like I got off track. I really don't think I did, but it almost feel like I got off track. So I'll go back to, what was I talking about? I was talking about Pan-Africanism being the key to securing our future. If we don't find ways to work together, there is no future. We are already behind the 8 ball financially and economically. We're already behind the 8 ball politically and socially. We've dropped from being the number 2 ethnicity to the number 3 ethnicity. Times are slipping. We don't have time to continue arguing and fighting amongst ourselves and over BS. If everybody was fighting about how best to write the legislation that would secure reparations, I'd be all for it. But that ain't what we doing. We got people fighting and using proxies and other straw man arguments. We got people fighting over whether or not British actors should be allowed to play a Black American. Like, that's about reparations. I'm like, what is wrong with you people? Get over it. Either focus, what they used to say. They used to say, I don't want to curse, so I don't want to say it that way. They used to say, take a dump or get off the pot. Well, go ahead, take a dump. You really need to take a dump. Get all of that out your system so that you can focus on what needs to be focused on. And if reparations ain't the issue, that's fine by me. What is the issue? If it ain't reparations, it's police brutality. If it ain't police brutality, it's systemic racism. It's DEI. Do you even want a chance, a shot, an opportunity to get a job? Or you want to throw that away too? Because Trump said he got a platinum plan. Where that? He coming in the office in another week. Where is his platinum plan? Ain't been talking about that. It was only hot for a minute. It was only hot before the vote. Rather than fighting amongst ourselves, we need to find ways to work together. We need to stop blaming, stop playing the blame game. You know, it was since Carter just passed, it was his defense secretary or one of his advisors, and I'm forgetting his name. His daughter works on MSN. No, his daughter's on one of the big three news networks, not MSNBC. No, I think it is MSNBC. Brzezinski, I think it is. He helped write one of those elusive documents that was about ensuring Black people globally never link up. And what are we doing? We're doing his work for him. We are ensuring that Black people globally never link up. J. Edgar Hoover said the biggest threat was Black people uniting under a charismatic leader and linking up with the Black people on the continent of Africa. And what are we doing? We're making sure J. Edgar Hoover can rest in peace because we're not linking up. So that's what we need to do. We need to get up on our A game, develop an umbrella coordinating committee or organization like CARICOM and fight for all of the stuff that we keep arguing about instead of arguing amongst ourselves. And in so doing, that is Pan-Africanism in effect, made manifest. And that's the key to securing our future, working together, collaborating amongst ourselves and with other Black populations. That's my word. That's my piece. That's my proper perspective. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed anything I said, please hit the like button. If you pissed off by anything I said, please hit the like button. Drop comments. Subscribe to the channel. I'll be back again later. Peace.